looking at the election data, just really briefly, current polls are showing, as we're recording here in September, current polls are showing this election coming down to 7 battleground states. We have Wisconsin, Nevada, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, and Arizona. How close do you think this election will be?
It's really hard to tell. By the way, just to tell you one of my pet peeves, because I teach what I teach, people start asking me like 9, 10 months ago, who's going to win the election? And I always have the same answer. It's too early to tell. Yeah. Too many things can happen. And what has happened between then? One of the candidates was dumped. Another one was shot. I mean, there are things that happen, right? Yeah. And we're still 2 months out, roughly, from the election. There's still a lot of things that can happen. Yeah. Who knows? And we still have October. October's famous for October surprises down through the years at various elections. So it looks as if it will all come down to for Trump to win, he has to probably win either Pennsylvania, Michigan, or Wisconsin. Okay. It may come out, as I look at it today, it would probably come out 270 to 268.
For Trump?
No, for Kamala Harris.
Wow.
However, the thing with Trump is, and we learned this in 2016, okay, in which like 2 people in America thought that Trump was going to win in 2016. We had a big political summit at the Masters University, big giant thing, filled the gym. It's actually the thing that we did that has gotten the most views online, more than 1 million views and so forth. And it was like 2 weeks before the election, talking about the election and whatnot. And everybody assumed that Hillary was going to win. But Trump supporters tend not to give honest answers to polls. Because there's this thing when I was in my PhD program, I had a class on this on all of this American political behavior, and one of the things about polling is often people will give the answer that they think the pollster wants to hear, and so that's why, for example, for many years, polls said that people were willing to elect black persons to office, and then they lost. Because people thought the pollster wanted them to say that they were willing to elect a black person, but they really weren't. And the same thing has been demonstrated to be true for Trump. Even in the last election, which he lost, the polls had him 6 to 8 points down, and it ended up razor thin. So polling has become a lot less reliable than it used to be, and it was never greatly reliable, but it's become less reliable for a number of reasons, not least of which is a lot of the polling services do what are called push polls. That is, it's how you ask the question that matters. And you can get people to answer the way you want them to, the way you ask the question. And so you have that factor, and then the factor of people being embarrassed to say that they like Trump because he's so obnoxious personally and whatnot. Yeah. And so it's hard to tell. He came out of nowhere to win Michigan and Wisconsin the other time, and that could happen again. It's hard to say. Yeah. So
one other thing, this is kind of a footnote on what we've been talking about, but the other thing that I think, for me, what I guess it's interesting as I keep talking, what I'm finding fascinating about this conversation, what I'm thinking in my head is how few people actually know how our government works. And when you said 270 to 268, what jumped in my mind is how few people really know that we're a republic and why an electoral college is important as it relates to the landscape and why keeping the Electoral College matters. I know this is not in our questions, but could you speak to your views on an Electoral
and
College?
Maybe mention why we say 270.
Yes. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, I actually the newspaper had me write an article on why the Electoral College, because I very much think that we need to keep the Electoral College, not because it's perfect, but because it's a whole lot better than direct popular election for various reasons.
I agree.
But 272. Actually, I was going to mention if Trump surprisingly won one of the votes in Nebraska that he's not expected to get, then it can end up 269 to 269.
A ton.
In which no one in America knows. Then it goes to the House of
Right.
Representatives. So the Electoral College system, there's 538 electoral votes. There's one for each representative. There's one for each senator. And then Washington, D.C. gets 3. And you have to win a majority, not just a plurality. Plurality is more than anyone else. Majority is more than half. You have to get a majority, more than half of the electoral total to win the presidency. So 270 is the magic number. That's the number that they worship. 270, that's what you need to be elected. And so that's the number they're shooting for. And most of the states, all but 2 of the states, have what's called the winner-take-all system, which is whatever candidate wins the popular vote in that state gets all of its electoral votes. So that's why we talk about winning states, because then all of their electoral votes, except for in Maine and Nebraska, they have a district plan which can split the votes. So that's why I say there's one vote in Nebraska that could go either way, and that would make things really interesting. In fact, often in the election, I figure out a way it could turn out 269, and then I watch to see how late it is at night before that is no longer possible. So Bush over Kerry, for example, or Bush over Gore, rather. No, Bush over Kerry, it went to 10 o'clock at night before that got eliminated. So it's just a thing I do, just because I'm strange.
Are you up at night with popcorn watching?
Yeah. It's just a strange thing that I do. So anyway, that's the way the system works, and so they're trying to win states, blocks of electoral votes, and they need 270 to win.